Hey team, today we're going to be doing a deep dive into something very near and dear to my heart, and that is what I like to call the Barbie cinematic universe. I'm going to be going over this presentation in which I'm going to be ranking my top 10 favorite movies from the BCU. Now when you think of a Barbie movie, you might think of the 2023 box office hit Barbie, directed by Greta Gerwig, starring Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. But the BCU goes much deeper than just that movie, okay? This contains a wide variety of films that released over the course of decades that are on a much more elevated level of cinema. Now, me personally, I was raised on these movies, and I still quote them to this day. But they are very indie, very underground, so it's totally okay if you don't know these movies. Don't fear, that's what this video is for. So for those of you out there who don't know, the Barbie Cinematic Universe, in its simplest terms, is a collection of movies that star Barbie in different leading characters and different plots that all tend to follow the typical hero's journey. Now, these movies have been releasing since the early 2000s all the way through 2023 as of most recently. But for the purposes of this video, I'm only going to be covering what I've coined as the Golden Age, which are movies from 2002 to 2007. That's pretty much all you need to know before we get right into it. But before we do, I'm just gonna change into something a little bit more comfortable. I'll be right back.
A few moments later.
That's much better.
It's Twin
Let's get into our scoring system that I'm going to be using today. Each film will be assessed in 3 categories, which will be rated on a scale from 1 to 10, meaning that each movie can reach a maximum of 30 points. The 3 categories are the plot, the characters, and the theme. Coming in at the bottom, number 10, is Barbie of Swan Lake. This movie is basically just a retelling of the famous ballet Swan Lake. So there's an enchanted forest with a bunch of mythical creatures who keep getting turned into animals by this evil sorcerer Rothbart. And so Rothbart actually turns the heroine, Odette, into a swan, but the fairy queen partially saves her by giving her this magic tiara, and so Odette is now only a swan during the day, and at night she turns human. So then enters our romantic lead Daniel, who finds Odette whenever she's in swan form, and he intends to shoot her, but then he's kind of like enchanted by her, so he doesn't, and then she turns into a human, and then they spend like the whole night together and they fall in love. But I repeat, Daniel met Odette in swan form. A case that never sat right with me. Basically, Odette and Daniel are trying to put a stop to the evil sorcerer Rothbart and save the fairy queen and all the mythical creatures of the enchanted forest, but Rothbart realizes this, and he knows that the power that Odette has comes from like the true love between her and Daniel, and so he disguises his daughter to be Odette to kind of trick Daniel into breaking her heart, which would break the magic, and there's a bunch of magic back and forth, but ultimately true love wins, and Rothbart is banished, and the enchanted forest thrives, and everyone lived happily ever after. So for the plot, I gave this a 5 out of 10. Characters, I give a 6 out of 10. This score was mainly impacted by the romantic lead, who, I'm sorry, I just can't get past the fact that he met her when she was a swan. And the theme, I give a 5 out of 10 because it's kind of like the most basic lesson ever. Like, true love wins, which puts the total score at 16 out of 30, hence why it comes last. Next up, coming in at number 9, we have Barbie as Rapunzel. Now, this is another retelling, obviously, but it has a little bit of a magical twist. In this version, Rapunzel actually has a magic paintbrush that allows whatever she paints to come to life. She finds Prince Stefan trying to save his little sister, and she helps him save his little sister. They meet, they talk, they kind of fall in love, but then Rapunzel has to get back to her tower. But when she gets back to the tower, it turns out that Mother Gothel's evil little ferret sidekick snitched on her. So Mother Gothel's like, tell me who you were with. And Rapunzel's like, I don't know. But they never exchanged names, so she genuinely doesn't know. And so Mother Gothel tries to lock her up, but Rapunzel still uses her magic paintbrush to go to the masquerade ball that Prince Stefan invited her to. But yet again, the creepy ferret snitches on her. Mother Gothel finds out again, smashes the paintbrush, and again questions Rapunzel, like, who is this man? I know you know the prince. Just admit that you know him. And Rapunzel's like, I genuinely don't know him because they never exchanged names in order to protect each other's identity. And so Mother Gothel gets pissed, casts a spell on the tower that anyone who's a liar should never be able to leave. But Rapunzel isn't actually trapped there because she wasn't actually lying. Okay, she genuinely never exchanged names with Prince Stefan, so she didn't know who he was when she was telling that to Mother Gothel. So she is able to escape with the help of her kind of dragon sidekick and all her friends. There's a big conflict at the masquerade ball where Mother Gothel actually admits to being the reason for the royal family feud between Prince Stefan and the other royal family. The whole reason why they were feuding is because the other family thinks that Prince Stefan's family kidnapped their daughter, but actually Mother Gothel was the one who kidnapped that daughter, and it's revealed that that daughter is Rapunzel. So Rapunzel is like fighting with Mother Gothel and pushes her through the portal to the tower, where Mother Gothel ends up being trapped by her own spell because she was the liar. And then the feud ends because Rapunzel and Prince Stefan fall in love, and Rapunzel's reunited with her family, and they all live happily ever after. So the plot, I give this a 6 out of 10. Not bad. Characters also get a 6 out of 10. This was mainly lowered by the creepy ferret sidekick of Mother Gothel. He was moaning and groaning in her ear, and for what? And the theme, another 5 out of 10, because I guess the message is like, tell the truth, use your creativity, which brings the total score to a 17 out of 30. And next, in 8th place, we have The Barbie Diaries. This is actually set at a typical American high school where Barbie is entering her sophomore year. She's in a band, she has her own little group of friends, and they get a charm bracelet, but her charm bracelet actually comes with a matching diary. And Barbie realizes that whatever she writes in this diary comes true. And so Barbie uses this newfound power. She tries to get in with the popular kids, but one of the popular kids is Raquel, who's like her sworn enemy. But she gets closer with her friends, and she starts making a documentary about like what makes popular kids popular. As she gets closer with the popular group, she starts to ditch her original friend group in the band and isn't showing up for them. And Raquel ends up stealing her charm bracelet for her, so she no longer has the magic diary. And then the popular kids find out that she was making a documentary about them, and they drop her. So then Barbie's kind of left with no one for a little bit. But eventually her friends take her back, and she's back in the band, and they perform at their dance. They all kind of live happily ever after. Now this plot I gave a 7 out of 10. It's really nothing special, but the concept of a magic diary that like whatever you write comes true had a grip on me. Okay, every birthday I wanted a diary. Every Christmas I wanted a matching charm bracelet. Characters though gets a 5 out of 10, mainly because Barbie's kind of hard to root for in this movie. And then the theme gets a 6 out of 10. I mean, it's know who your true friends are, which makes the total score 18 out of 30. And coming in 7th, we have Barbie as the Island Princess. Let it be known that I actually went as Barbie the Island Princess for Halloween one year, and I slayed. Anyway, in this movie, Barbie plays a girl named Ro, who is in a shipwreck and kind of like washes up to this deserted island when she's really young, and she ends up growing up on this island where she can talk to the animals, and she spends many, many years there when the romantic lead, Prince Antonio, finds her island and finds her on the island and offers to take her back to the mainland and try to find her family. And so on this ship ride back, they start to fall in love, but then whenever he gets back to the mainland, it turns out that his father has set him up in an arranged marriage with this Princess Luciana, who was set up by her mother, Queen Ariana. So he's going against his father, and even poor Princess Luciana, the daughter, doesn't even really want to be there, and she feels bad for Antonio and Ro because she knows that they love each other. She's just trying to do what her mom wants. But basically, Antonio is like firm in his love for Ro, and he tries to propose to her, but she turns him down and is like, no, you have to do what your father wants. I don't want to come between you and your family. And Queen Ariana finds out about this, and so she uses her little evil mice henchmen to spread a poison throughout all the animals that live in the village. She blames Ro for bringing her disease from the island. Antonio's father ends up imprisoning her, and in the middle of all this, Prince Antonio writes a letter to Ro saying that he wants to run away with her and he's gonna abdicate his throne to be with her. And Ro's bitch-ass sidekick elephant Tika finds the letter before Ro can, and she reads it, and she gets jealous and doesn't pass along the message to Ro because she doesn't want to like share her. This goddamn elephant I hate with every fiber of my being. But Prince Antonio comes in and is like, okay, fine, I'll go through with the arranged marriage as long as you set Ro free and send her back to her island so she can live happily and not in prison. But Queen Ariana takes it a step further because getting rid of Ro wasn't enough. She bribes a sailor on the ship taking her home to throw Ro overboard, and the sailor throws them overboard, but y'all forget that she's the island princess. Okay, she can talk to animals, and so she like gets her little dolphin friends to take her back to the mainland. And whenever she's back at the mainland, a little birdie tells Ro, yes, a literal little bird, because again, she can talk to animals. The bird tells Ro that Queen Ariana is gonna poison Antonio and his father with the wedding cake. So Ro runs into the wedding at the last minute and is like, don't eat the cake, it's poisoned. And everyone's like, why should we believe you? But then Princess Luciana even jumps in and defends her, and she's like, no, she's onto something, because my mother told me not to eat anything. So Queen Ariana knows the jig is up, she runs away and gets like thrown into a pigsty. And then Antonio and Ro are reunited, and they're able to get happily married, and they all live happily ever after. Even the bitch-ass elephant Tika. The plot, 10 out of 10. Characters though, you already know what I want to say about the bitch-ass elephant, okay? She's the reason why the characters get a 5 out of 10, because she pissed me off. And the theme only gets a 4 out of 10 because like, I can't really gather a message from this. Follow your heart? I don't know. True love? I don't know. The total score is a strong 19 out of 30. Next up is Barbie Fairytopia. So this movie is the first in a trilogy where Barbie plays the lead character of Alina, who is a fairy like all of her peers, except she doesn't have any wings. She's a bit of an underdog, she has to walk everywhere. She still has her trusty sidekick Bibble, who's a puffball. The enchantress of Fairytopia, so she's like the benevolent ruler, right, is the enchantress. She has an evil twin sister, Laverna, who's always trying to take over, be evil. And so when this guardian is kidnapped, Laverna also sends out these like fumes that poison any winged creature so they can't fly. But this is where our girl Alina comes in, because hello, she's never been able to fly. So her mentor Azula is like, you're the only one that can help. And when Azula tells her this, she also gives Alina her guardian necklace and is like, I need you to keep this safe from me, because who knows what'll happen to me. One guardian's already been taken, I could be next. Turns out Azula was right, she is taken, and Alina's the one with her necklace. What Laverne is doing is trying to take the power from all the guardians' necklaces to harness it for herself. So Alina has to keep the necklace safe and reunite it with all the guardians before Laverna can get it from her to use it to like unlock this evil power. So she goes, she runs into some problems here and there. She does meet an ally of sorts, Prince Nalu, who's a mermaid, and she makes a new friend. Okay, you're gonna wanna remember Prince Nalu and the seaweed that allows her to breathe underwater. Remember, we're setting up a universe here in a trilogy of movies. Along the way, Alina's also trying to evade Laverna's evil henchman, Fungus, but they're just like kind of hilariously bad at their job, so they never catch her. Eventually she does reach Laverna, and there's like this standoff where Laverna offers Alina a pair of her own wings in exchange for Azula's necklace. And so Alina's kind of in this like, do I sacrifice the necklace in order to give myself a pair of wings that I've always wanted, or do I save my entire kingdom? Obviously she's a good person, she does the right thing, and she saves the kingdom. So Laverna is banished, and Alina and everyone kind of makes their way back to Fairytopia. The poison is done spreading, everyone can fly again, but Alina is still wingless. But the enchantress, she's like, Alina, in exchange for you showing such bravery, such courage, such selflessness, I'm gonna gift you your very own pair of wings for making the right decision. It's what she deserves. She gets a beautiful pair of pink wings, and the end. So the plot for this movie gets a 7 out of 10. It does a really good job at like setting up the universe. The characters gets a 9 out of 10. Alina as like the lead character, as the hero in the story, so easy to root for. Like she always makes the right decision. She's very creative, she's very brave. And then the theme gets an 8 out of 10. Kind of the same thing as Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer vibes, like just because you're different doesn't mean you're less than, and actually what makes you different can make you stronger. So overall, that puts this movie with a score of 24 out of 30. Coming in at number 5 is actually the final movie in the Barbie Fairytopia trilogy, Barbie Fairytopia Magic of the Rainbow. Azula, her mentor, is a guardian and selects Alina to be her apprentice. And so she arrives at this brand new fairy school. There's a bunch of different fairies, and Bibble in this movie actually gets his own love interest, a little pink puffball called Dizzle. But basically, as soon as the school starts, it becomes clear that Alina's kind of better than everyone. She just has like a natural talent, and that makes her an immediate target and kind of gets her an enemy. But basically the reason why Alina's at school is because she's going to be training for the Flight of Spring, which is something that all the Guardians have to get together and do in order to bring spring, or else there's going to be 10 years of bitter winter in Fairytopia. But so Laverna wants to stop the Flight of Spring, and she actually tricks Alina into thinking that she's like a helpless, mysterious animal, and she tricks her into casting a spell that actually undoes the curse on Laverna. So Laverna turns back into her human form and kind of like flies away, and Alina's like, oh my god, I just set free Laverna. And then Laverna actually ends up putting all the Guardians in like a comatose state. Slowly, one by one, she's been knocking them out. And the Enchantress has to use the apprentices instead of the Guardians because all the Guardians are out for the count. But it turns out that Sunburst is actually Laverna pretending to be Sunburst so she could sabotage the Flight of Spring as it's happening. So Alina comes back from saving Sunburst and they confront Laverna at the Flight of Spring. Alina jumps in front of it and saves the blush but takes on Laverna's curse, and so she's kind of like weakened by it, but then all the other apprentices and like Guardians and Enchantress point their light at Alina and the first blush of spring, which is what they have to do the Flight of Spring. And so Alina ends up like taking in all of their powers, and then she's transformed into this like super powerful magic of the rainbow fairy. And so like in her enhanced state, she like turns Laverna into dust. So Laverna's finally defeated once and for all, and they go through with the first Flight of Spring and they're saved from 10 years of bitter winter. So plot, I give it a 9 out of 10. Characters gets an 8 out of 10. And the theme, I gets a 10 out of 10 because I am a sucker for a good chosen one trope. Like Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, Katniss Everdeen, like just those people who like stay so true to themselves and that's what makes them powerful. Gotta be one of my favorite tropes, okay? I think it was the perfect end to the trilogy because it like gives Alina all the power that she deserves for being such a good hero. And when you think back to like all the way from whenever she didn't even have a pair of wings and now she has like the most magical pair of wings ever. So that comes in at a whopping score of 27 out of 30. Next up, in 4th place, we have Barbie Fairytopia Mermaidia, the second in the trilogy. Laverna has heard rumors circulating of this certain like berry that she needs to find, so she sends her 2 henchmen, the fungi, to kidnap Prince Nalu. That name should be ringing a bell, okay? Prince Nalu, Prince Nalu. The merman who showed Alina about the seaweed that you can eat and breathe water, that Prince Nalu, yeah, he's been kidnapped, and they have this poison that they're planning on spilling into this pond that'll eventually seep into the entire ocean where Prince Nalu and all his people live, unless Prince Nalu tells them where to get the berry. So Alina finds out that Prince Nalu is being held captive by the fungi, and so she's on a mission to go find him. By the way, the berry is called the immunity, Betty. Anytime I say it, I have to say it like that. And Alina runs into Prince Nalu's friend, Nori. But Nori, like, pretty much hates Alina because she thinks that she's like competition with Prince Nalu. But Alina's not giving up because she's like, that's my friend, I'm gonna try and save him too. So Nori knows that the only way to find out where Prince Nalu is to consult the Oracle of Delphi. So Nori and Alina are headed to find the Oracle of Delphi, and all the while this is happening, Prince Nalu is being very smart and takes the fungi to the Carousel of Confusion. They're like riding in the ocean and they keep on just making left turns and going in circles, but the fungi are so dumb that they don't even realize it. Anytime I make a left turn, I'm saying lefting, left-a-doo. So the Oracle of Delphi tells them that they have to travel to the depths of despair to find the Mirror of the Mist, which will lead them to Prince Nalu. And the Oracle of Delphi also warns them that the depths of despair are like very hard to navigate and would pretty much be impossible for Alina to do because she's not even a mermaid. And the Oracle of Delphi offers to give Alina a mermaid tail in exchange for her wings. But remember, Alina just got this pair of wings that she's been wanting for like her entire life. So Alina's like, no, I'll be fine, I'm a strong swimmer, I don't want no tail. But the Oracle of Delphi is like, okay, but in case you change your mind, I'm gonna give you this pearl necklace. If you say, I wish to trade my wings for a tail, you'll have a tail, and then slowly as the pearls start to turn blue, if you don't change back by then you're gonna be stuck with a tail forever. But Alina at that point is still like, no, I'll be fine. But they head to the depths of despair, lo and behold, it's nearly impossible to get through them. And then Alina makes the snap decision to be like, I wish to trade my wings for a tail. And then voila, she has wings instead of a tail. They swim down, they make it through the depths of despair. They find the Mirror of Mist, and then they're kind of making this one last trek through this like plant area where there's a bunch of different berries. This is also one of my favorite Bibble scenes ever because Bibble is just like eating the berries that they're passing by, and each one gives him like a different voice effect. Bibble is actually the one that saves the day by distracting the fungi. Nori and Alina are able to save Nalu, but then Nalu's like, no guys, because the fungi are about to get the immunity, Betty! Are all like fighting the fungi for this berry. They're like throwing it back and forth. And so the fungi end up having the berry at like the top of a waterfall. And all the while, Alina's necklace is like ticking, and she has to make the split-second decision between letting the mermaid tail stay or saving the immunity berry and stopping Laverna from having it. And Alina, being the amazing hero that she is, swims up the waterfall just as the necklace is turning, snatches the immunity berry, and saves it at the cost of her wings. And then the worst part is that even though she has the immunity berry, the fungi are like, if you don't give that to us, then I'm gonna let this poison slip all the way through the ocean. So Alina ends up having to give up the immunity berry, and she lost her wings for nothing. Or so we think, because actually, when they were playing that intense game of catch, Nori and Alina switched out the immunity berry for one of the random berries that they found on that like walk through all the plants. And so the fungi think that they have the immunity berry, but they don't. The berry that they pretended to be the immunity berry was actually the true self berry, which looks exactly like the immunity berry but without the red stripe, and so they just like painted on the red stripe. And so they're sitting there with the true self berries, and Nori is like, why don't you just eat the true self berry, because if you're really meant to be a fairy, then you should get your wings back instead of being stuck with a tail. So Alina does, and wouldn't you know it, Alina gets her wings back. Also, we cut back to Laverna, who thinks that she has the immunity berry, but it's actually the true self berry. And so when Laverna eats the true self berry, she turns into a nasty ass frog. So plot is coming in strong at a 10 out of 10. Characters also get an 8 out of 10. I just am not a fan of whenever the women are like fighting for no good reason. Like together, you could maximize your joint slay and like rule the world. And they did, but it took them a little bit to get there. And the theme gets a 9 out of 10. Kind of the same lesson that we're always learning with Alina, and that is to like, you know, do things for the greater good. All that adds up to a very solid score of 27 out of 30. Coming in at number 3, Barbie as the princess and the pauper. So Annalise is the blonde princess Barbie, and Erica is the brunette, poor dressmaker Barbie. Annalise is arranged to marry Prince Dominic, and Erica is like trying to work off her life's debt to like this really evil seamstress. And Annalise is actually being forced to marry Prince Dominic because her mother and her kingdom are facing like financial ruin. But it turns out that their financial advisor, Preminger, is actually been like stealing from them and is trying to take over the throne to like, you know, steal all their money. This is also probably the most iconic musical film, with hits such as I Am a Girl Like You,
I'm just like you, I'm just like you, you're just like me. It's something anyone can see.
Me and my sister growing up, that was our anthem, okay? We were duetting it like no one's business. Also, How Can I Refuse? It's a temporary setback. It's a momentary loss. So Annalise is actually in love with her tutor, Julian, but she is forced to be in this arranged marriage with Dominic, and Julian, seeing that Annalise is upset by the arranged marriage, takes her out for a day on the town where she runs into Erica. And that night, Preminger's 2 henchmen kidnap Annalise because he hears about the arranged marriage and is like, bitch, that's my money. She's not getting married. I'm gonna kidnap her so that I can form a plan to like marry into the family instead. So Annalise is kidnapped, and Julian, the tutor, is like, Erica, I'm gonna need you to step in for Annalise while I like figure out what's happening. So Erica has to undergo like princess lessons, and Erica actually meets Dominic, Annalise's like arranged marriage guy, and they actually do end up kind of like slowly falling in love. but Dominic thinks that she's Annalise because she's putting on the blonde wig. But basically, the real Annalise ends up outsmarting the henchman and she escapes. But whenever she comes back, the guards like thinks that she's an imposter because Erica's been running around as her, so they don't let her into the kingdom. And then Erica's mean like dress shop lady finds Annalise and thinks that she's Erica, and she's pissed at her for like not showing up for work. So she takes her in and like locks her in the dressmaker shop as a punishment for running away, even though she's not Erica. Erica is actually called out by Preminger, and they realize that she's not the princess because she doesn't have like the princess beauty mark. So Erica's also in prison, and they're like, bitch, where's my daughter at? No one knows. But basically, because her daughter is missing and presumed dead, the queen agrees to marry Preminger in order to save her family from financial ruin, not knowing that Preminger is the reason why they're broke in the first place. So the queen and Preminger are about to get married just as Annalise and Erica and Julian and Dominic like all escape and meet, and they realize what's been happening, and they stop the wedding, and they expose Preminger for being a thief, and they actually reveal that this cave that they got locked into has a bunch of crystals that they can use instead since they've been robbed dry of their gold. And Annalise reveals that she wants to marry Julian, and Erica reveals herself to Dominic, and then both the couples live happily ever after. So plot, we get a solid 9 out of 10. Characters, 10 out of 10. And the theme, solid 9 out of 10. So this comes in at a total score of 28 out of 30. And coming up next in second place, we have Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses. Now this is a story of a royal family that has, you guessed it, 12 dancing princesses. The main character daughter is called Genevieve, but she is one of 12 sisters, all raised by a single father because their mother passed away. And so like each of the girls kind of has their own like personality, and the romantic lead in this story is actually their like shoemaker, their cobbler, Derek. He's always visiting them and giving them new shoes, but it's very clear that like Derek is in love with Genevieve. And Genevieve likes him too, but it's like they can't do anything about it because she's royalty and he's just a lowly cobbler. As I mentioned, they have a single father, King Randolph, who is starting to worry about all his girls being raised without a mother figure. So he invites Duchess Rowena to come in and kind of like teach them how to be ladylike. But lo and behold, Duchess Rowena is like evil who wants to take over his like royal place. So she starts enacting like this really strict rules on them. They can't dance, they can't do any of their hobbies. And it's actually one of the youngest sister's birthday, and she's gifted a copy of their dead mother's favorite story about this like magical land where you can like dance there for a night before it vanishes. And they realize that the story actually lines up with all those flowers that they have in their room. And so they do the same thing that they do in the story, where they kind of like dance from oldest to youngest, flower to flower, and the floor opens up and reveals the magical dancing land where they can go and like make any wish to dance to whatever music they want with whatever partners they want. And they dance the night away. And then the next morning, all their shoes are worn out, so they have to call the cobbler up. Duchess Rowena is immediately suspicious of this, and she's like, where the hell have they been going? So Derek is immediately suspicious of Rowena, so he does some investigating and realizes that Rowena has actually been buying poison. So he goes looking for the girls. So Derek finds them in the magical land and is like, what are y'all doing here? And the princesses are like, we overheard our dad say that he thinks of us as burdens, so we just thought it'd be better if we like ran away. And Derek is like, no, he doesn't think that, like he actually needs your help. But whenever they try to go up, they realize that Rowena has destroyed that portal, so they think they're stuck. But then it turns out that like they can open another portal by doing a certain dance. So they open another portal, they return, and they all end up like using their strengths to infiltrate the castle. And Rowena is like caught in this final moment with this wish-making flower, and she wishes for Genevieve to dance forever without rest, and like blows it towards her. But then Genevieve uses her fan, her like princess fan that Rowena taught her how to use, and like fluffs the magic back towards Duchess Rowena. And so Rowena and her henchmen end up being cursed to dance forever, and they literally just like end up dancing away out of the kingdom. And the girls are able to use this like magical healing water that they found in the magical dance land. So the father lives, and Genevieve and Derek get together, and they all live happily ever after doing their unladylike hobbies. Plot, we come in with a whopping 10 out of 10. There is nothing I love more than a secret room. Characters, another 10 out of 10. Again, all of these princesses, they have their quirks, but they stay true to themselves. And the theme is a solid 9 out of 10. You know, be yourself. It's not like perfect or revolutionary, but it's still pretty up there. All of that totals up into a total score of 29 out of 10, coming in at second place. And coming in first place, we have Barbie and the Magic of Pegasus. In this movie, Barbie plays Annika, who is a princess to the very overprotective king and queen. One day she sneaks out ice skating, and she's sneaking back into the house after she just adopted this really cute polar bear cub who she named Shiver, and her parents find her and are like, we were so worried about you, and you're banned from ever going ice skating again. But then that night, all the village people are ice skating, and Annika decides to go out anyway, when all of a sudden, an evil sorcerer, Wenlock, flies in. He's like, I'm marrying the princess. And Annika and her parents are like, no, you're not. And then Wenlock drops a bomb and is like, don't you remember what happened to your other daughter?
If 2 plus 2 is 4, and 5 plus 5 is 10.
Other daughter? Annika is thrown for a loop, and she still refuses to marry Wenlock, so Wenlock is like, all right, fine. He casts a spell and freezes the entire kingdom, and he says like, you have 3 days time to decide to marry me or else these people are gonna die. And Annika's like, what the fuck? But then a new Pegasus comes into town, and she's like, trust me, get on. So Annika's like, okay, shoot, I don't have anything else to do. And this Pegasus, her name is Brietta, takes her to the Cloud Kingdom, where she learns that Brietta is actually Annika's sister, who many moons ago was also proposed to by Wenlock, but when she refused, he turned her into a Pegasus. Now we get why her parents were so overprotective. And it turns out that the only thing powerful enough to stop a sorcerer such as Wenlock is what's called the Wand of Light. In order to build a Wand of Light, you need 3 things: a measure of courage, a ring of love, and a gem of ice lit by hope's eternal flame. They start off by traveling to the Forbidden Forest, where they meet Aiden. They actually get trapped in like a net that was set by Aiden, and so Aiden finds them and is like, what are you doing in my neck of the woods? You 2 ladies shouldn't be out running around in the Forbidden Forest. And Annika's immediately like, ugh, this guy, can you let me down, please? Also forgot to mention, Shiver the polar bear cub is with them, and she's a little klutz, so she falls down this slide that no one knows where it leads to, and Annika jumps right in afterwards. Turns out that the slide leads into a giant's pot of stew. So she's about to get cooked, and she says like, you know, you're not the biggest giant I've ever seen. In fact, I've seen a giant who chained himself up and was able to break free. So immediately the dumbass giant is like, I'm not strong, I can do that. So he chains himself up, and Annika takes a ribbon from her hair and uses it as like a lasso to pull herself and Shiver out of the pot of stew, and like runs away, and the giant gets so mad that she runs away that he actually does break free, but he like crumbles the house on top of him in the process. So Annika escapes the giant, and it turns out that that ribbon that she pulled from her hair, it's suddenly turning into, what's that? A measure of courage.
Yeah, right.
So the measure of courage is now the staff for the Wand of Light. And now they're all kind of in this together. They're like trucking through a bunch of different places, meet a bunch of different people. Brietta ends up giving up her tiara that she wears to use as the ring of love. And Aiden helps them find this like ice cave filled with all these gems. In the ice cave, they find like the perfect gem of ice that has a beam of light pointing on it, so they're like, that's gotta be Hope's eternal flame. And they manage to build the Wand of Light. They actually run into Wenlock, and Wenlock like throws Brietta off course, and Annika gets all mad and she tries to use the Wand of Light against him, but it doesn't work. And Wenlock is like, ha, I knew that thing would never work. But also I want it. So he takes it from her and buries Annika under like a pile of snow, but luckily Aiden is there and like digs her out, and it's a very heroic moment. But they manage to regroup. They agree that they're gonna ambush Wenlock at his own castle. And during the confrontation, the Wand of Light is like thrown, and the gem of ice lit by Hope's eternal flame is busted. So everyone's like, so? What now? But Aiden, whenever they were in the cave with all the gems, he also took one, because the reason why he ran away from his family was because he gambled away his dad's life savings and felt too shameful to ever return. So he was gonna come back with the gem to offer it as like a peace offering and like, sorry dad, I've been working away to try and find a way to repay you. He gives that up so Annika can use it to remake the Wand of Light so it'll work so that it's not made out of vengeance but out of selflessness. And it does. Annika like lifts up that Wand of Light and just shines it right down on Wenlock, and it strips him of all of his powers and it undoes the curses that he put on everyone else. Which means that Annika's parents are unfrozen and Brietta is no longer a Pegasus, and everyone literally rides off into the sunset together. So for plot, 10 out of 10. Characters, another 10 out of 10. And theme, 10 out of 10. The whole message is like, whenever you do things out of vengeance or out of hurt, you're not gonna help anyone. What actually powers you through the tough times is channeling good energy instead of negative energy. And not just romantic love between Annika and Aiden, but sisterly love between Brietta and Annika, and like doing anything for your sister. Amazing plot, amazing characters, amazing theme, 10s all around. The perfect score for the perfect movie in the Barbie cinematic universe. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope this was entertaining. If it wasn't, I'm sorry. Okay, thanks for watching. Peace.